They said the light had been burning for 3 days after the keeper was found dead, and no one, not a soul, had stepped inside. The year was 1894, and the sea outside Greymouth was as black as spilled ink. The wind howled through the fishing village like a dying animal, rattling windows and carrying with it the stench of salt and rotting kelp. Out on the cliff, the lighthouse stood, crooked, with its spire of stone that had kept the town alive through decades of storms. Only now, the man who attended it for 27 years, old Tom Merrick, was dead. They found him washed up on the rocks below, his eyes wide and glassy, his lips torn in a silent scream. But the strange part was the light. The lantern inside the tower burned steadily every night since his death. No one had refueled it. No one had trimmed the wick. And when the sheriff tried to open the iron door, the key snapped clean in half. The town sent for a replacement keeper, a man named Samuel Creighton, 35, strong and stubborn. He'd tended lighthouses before. He didn't believe in ghost stories, but when he arrived, the first thing he noticed was the glow, a pale, cold light that wasn't the warm gold of oil, but something bluish, almost sickly, stabbing through the fog like a knife. On his first night, he took the spare key and approached the door. It slid into the lock with a satisfying click, but when he stepped inside, the air changed. The storm outside fell silent, replaced by a faint, rhythmic sound, like footsteps circling somewhere above. He told himself it was just the wind moving in the tower's hollow body. He started climbing the spiral staircase, lantern in hand. Each step groaned under his boots. The stone slick with some kind of moisture that smelled faintly of the sea, but sharper, like brine mixed with iron. The higher he climbed, the more he noticed something wrong. The staircase seemed longer than he remembered from other lighthouses. He kept passing the same iron support beams over and over, though there should have been only 3, and every few seconds, he swore he heard his name whispered. Samuel. It was faint, almost tender, like a voice calling from under deep water. When he reached the top, his stomach turned. The lantern room was empty. No flame, no oil, just the cold, bluish glow flooding the room from nowhere. In the corner stood a pair of dripping boots, leather cracked and warped from seawater, leaving wet footprints that led toward the glass windows and stopped. The glass was fogged over, but he could make out a shadow cast against it, a tall, hunched figure that seemed to sway slightly, like it was breathing, but there was nothing between the light and the window. Samuel's instinct told him to leave. He turned, heading back down the stairs, but the air in the tower had grown colder, denser. Every breath clouded in front of his face. His own footsteps echoed unnaturally, as though someone else was mimicking them exactly, a half-second behind. When he reached the base, his heart stopped. The iron door was gone. In its place was a solid wall of damp, rough stone. No seam, no hinges. He pressed his hands against it. The rock was wet and ice-cold, as if it had been underwater. The whispers grew louder. They weren't just calling his name anymore. They were muttering in low, guttural tones he couldn't understand, a language that sounded too old to belong to men. Panic rising, he raced back up the stairs. Maybe he could signal a ship. Maybe someone would see. But as he climbed, the steps grew uneven, the air thickening like syrup. The bluish light above pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat. When he finally reached the lantern room again, the boots were gone. The glow was dimmer now. Through the glass, he saw the ocean, except it wasn't the ocean. Where the waves should have been, there was nothing but black, an endless void stretching forever. And in that void, thousands of faint, glowing eyes stared back at him. They blinked in unison. The light inside the tower flickered. Samuel felt something behind him, not just a presence, but a shape, tall enough that it bent to fit beneath the ceiling. It breathed in slow, rattling gusts that smelled like salt and decay. A voice spoke, close enough that he felt the air move against his ear. The light must never go out. Then the floor lurched. He stumbled forward, slamming into the window, the glass cold against his face. When he looked down, the void below seemed closer, the eyes brighter. Something moved among them, writhing upward like a mass of pale, swollen hands. They reached the glass, the bluish light died. The next morning, The townspeople saw the lighthouse beam burning again, steady and cold, but when they opened the tower, there was no sign of Samuel Creighton, only a pair of dripping boots in the corner, and a trail of wet footprints leading up the spiral staircase. The light has never gone out since, and on stormy nights, if you walk the cliff path, you might hear a faint, tired voice calling from the tower, whispering your name.